Welcome to Back to School with Buncee. Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to get back to Educator Alexander webinars. We took about 3 weekends off just because we had conferences and all that kind of stuff going on. So we are very happy to be back and talking about Buncee. If you are watching this on the YouTube channel, you can go right underneath the video and look in the description and you can get the resource for today. Can you get a certificate of attendance? No, you cannot, but you can get the knowledge. So who am I, you may ask? Well, I am Dr. Desiree Alexander. I am the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting, and you can get all of the information right here of how you can contact me on Twitter. I'm at Educator Alex, and all other social media, Educator Alexander. So what do we have coming up besides this amazing webinar that you're attending today? Well, we have I'm Back, so are my students. Now what? Next weekend with the lovely Joy, talking about, what do we do when we go back to school? And I know some of us are going back to school and we're still dealing with some of the things we dealt with last year. So, how do we deal with all of these things? Then we have Joy coming back the next weekend. She can't get enough of us. We can't get enough of her. Talking about Google, you in your classroom. Really discussing some of the 2021 Google updates. If you don't know, there've been a lot of updates and there's still more coming out. So she's going to make it make sense. Make it make sense, Joy. And then we have Equity is Not an Add-on. September 11th is going to be a panel. I'm very excited to sit on the panel with this amazing group again. Every time we present, it's just like more and more and more. So we're trying to present more and more. And then we have infusing digital reading and writing tools in the remote, blended, or face-to-face classroom. This can't be more relevant, right? Because we should be reading and writing in all content areas. And Dr. Hans is going to talk about, I don't care how you're teaching, how do we do this? So this is going to be a really, really good one. And then create engaging and interactive lessons with Nearpod. So if you've I've heard of that Nearpod thing, but I don't quite know what to do. Well, hey, Trish is going to help us get started. And then we have using Seesaw for sit and reflection. You may be like, what's sit? That is digital citizenship. So using Seesaw in those really, really awesome ways with Leticia, which is going to be so much fun. And then hopefully we are in person for TCCA in Houston, Texas. It's a 1-day amazing conference. Definitely check it out. If we're in person, come visit us. If we're virtual, come visit us even more because, of course, it will be virtual. But as far as we know right now, we are still in person. Then on Saturday, December 4th, we have Google Educator Certifications Panel. So if you've ever been interested in being a Google Certified Trainer, Innovator, Coach, come and hear this amazing, just me looking at the pictures here. It can't be boring. There's no way this is going to be boring with the people we have on this panel. It may be a little bit wild, but it's going to be great. So come and listen and find out about not only becoming certified, but you also may ask, well, I'm already certified. Now what? How do I get these opportunities that I see people getting? So this should be a crazy one. It's going to be really good. So what you came for. I know some of you know Buncee, some of you don't know Buncee. So this is going to be a really, really good one. I've been waiting for it. Rachelle is I like to say Buncee Queen. I just put a little crown on her head every time I talk about Buncee, because she has been trying to get me into it for years. She's like, you got to get into Buncee. So I'm very excited to learn more about it. It really does look amazing every time I see it. So I just need to get on the Buncee train just like you. So it's enough of me. Let's talk about getting back to school with Buncee.
All right. So thank you for the opportunity to be here again. And I still cannot believe that it's August, but time flies. So anyway, for those of you that just joined in, would love to know where you're joining from. I do see one of my friends in the chat, and I know where she is joining from, and she probably knows exactly who I'm talking about right now. So for our time that we're going to spend here together, I would say this morning or this afternoon, or could be for some of you this evening or watching later on, I am going to share with you just some of the ways that I've used Buncee, and then dive into creating some things that we can use for back to school with Buncee. I highly encourage you, if you do not already have an account, to go ahead and open up another tab on your computer and multitask a little bit here shortly. Create an account. As you will see, I'm going to go through a presentation that I made with Buncee just to give you an idea of the possibilities. Now, you might be wondering, what is behind Rachelle? My background, I made with Buncee. I created, it's like just one slide, and it had, part of it was already in there because there are templates, but then I added some different characters aside from my chair, but the cat and the wording. So I'll show you how to do that. So even just starting the year, if you happen to be teaching virtually, or you want to create something, messages for your students or for your staff, you can make your own virtual backgrounds to use in Zoom or Teams or whatever you're using with Buncee. And it's just a really fun way to create for students, but also for us as the educators too. So really quickly, my name is Rachelle Dene Poth. I am a Spanish and STEAM educator. I'm also an attorney. There's a lot of things that I do. I love learning, and I love finding tools that really help us to make a difference for students and just the ways that they learn and show their learning. And so for us here in the time that we spend, take a look at just some of the things that you see on the screen. Whatever catches your attention. Is it the wording? Is it the animations, the characters, the background, how visually engaging it is? And then consider just ways that you might be able to use this in your own classroom, or if you are an administrator or a tech coach, how can you share this with your teachers as something that they might want to try out in the school year? And choosing different digital tools to use can become overwhelming. And the thing that I love about Buncee, and I recommend it all of the time, is because you really can do everything with it. There are endless possibilities for creating with Buncee. And it just takes, like an idea from students, or for you to go in and look in their library at the templates. So just check everything out and see some of the curious things that I've placed here. Really briefly, I want to mention that for me as a language teacher, but also as a STEAM teacher, I focus on, of course, the language standards, but I also focus on the ISTE standards. And for anybody who is not familiar, ISTE is the International Society for Technology and Education. And as we are, wanting to prepare our students for the future, also helping them to build the skills they need now, the ISTE standards are what I use for part of my focus when I think about bringing technology to my classroom. And these are the 7 student standards, and Buncee helps us as educators to address all of them. So think about, not too long ago, we heard there's going to be a DigCit webinar coming up. Digital citizenship is key for students using all of these tools, interacting in these online spaces, especially since last year. We have to help them to build those skills, empowering our learners, collaborating globally. So these are a lot of what I work through in addition to the language standards in my classroom. Now, when it comes to Buncee, something else that's pretty exciting is they have released this SEL Toolkit. So for social emotional learning, very big topic. Lots of educators are looking for ideas to help students to develop the essential social emotional learning skills. And now with Buncee, and I will share this with everybody as well, and it's also linked in the resources, they have put together this resource kit that really is everything that an educator needs to get started. They have it broken down into the 5 competencies. So heading back to school with Buncee, thinking about at the beginning of the school year, building relationships, getting our students to know who we are, learning about each other in our classes, building their social awareness, for example. Also dealing with some frustrations and challenges that happen when, self-management, and as adults, we need to continue to work on our own SEL skills too. So Buncee has this whole kit together where, let's say in your class at the beginning of the school year, you want students to, build those relationships. So you would choose the relationship skills competency for SEL. And depending on the grade level you teach, they have it broken down into K through 6 and 7 through 12. And when you go there, which I will show you, you can see templates that are all ready for you to use without taking too much time to get started. And so worrying about, well, how do I find the time? Is there a big learning curve? Absolutely not. You can get started really quickly because there are so many choices ready to go for you, and it gives you everything that you need. So Buncee has really helped my students in many ways, especially last year, develop their skills in these areas, learning about each other. I'll share some examples of creating an about me to introduce, myself to my students and students to each other, social awareness with things like project-based learning, which I'll share with you here soon, self-management, setting goals, working through frustrations. There are lots of tools available within Buncee for students to create things like check-ins or reflection journals or weekly kind of planning documents, all kinds of possibilities and more in that toolkit, which I'll share with you. So here again, these are some of the things we need to help our students work through, especially as we head back to school, finding ways to do that. And what I'll share with you here today, hopefully, will be a lot of ideas. And I hope if you multitask, you will use some of what they already have made, make some slight changes to them, and you'll have something ready to go for all of your classes or to welcome your students back in. And if you've already started the school year, that's okay, because there are tons of options here that you can find something to use for every grade level content area that you teach, and even just some learning activities, fun activities that you can use to help students enjoy learning, be more engaged in learning, be creative, and of course, develop those essential SEL skills. So let's see, there we go. Oh, made it, I clicked on too large. So this has a lot going on, but what I wanted to emphasize here is all of the possibilities that you have for what is included within Buncee. Now, when we create with other tools, let's say we're using Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint. I had a conversation with a student several years ago when we were starting to use Buncee to create. And this student said, I don't need to use that tool because I can do everything that you can do in PowerPoint. And I said, yeah, to an extent, that is true. I said, but there are some differences in terms of the amount of time in citing images that you get from within Buncee versus if you get something from the internet. So the student and I sat down side by side, and I made a list of what we needed to include in our presentations. And according to the student, I won. And I said, I wasn't trying to win. I was validating what you were saying. I said, so you can do a lot of the similar things in terms of creating, but it comes down to all of the options that are already there, the amount of time that it takes, and the additional features that are available from within Buncee. One of which is if you search for images, videos, anything right within this Buncee platform, it gives you the attribution so you know where that image comes from. So it helps students to reinforce digital citizenship. More than 35,000 graphics available in the library. So on the screen, you see a lot of things. There are essential workers that they added last year. There are animals, there are animations, there are 3D objects. You also, depending on the account that you have, because there are different types of accounts ranging from free to a teacher with a classroom group, and then of course schools and districts, but you can even have assessments built in, like open-ended responses, auto-grading multiple choice, for example. Video. So much power in video, one, especially whenever it's us talking to our students or making a video to share with families in the school community. So you can record your own video and have it be embedded right into the Buncee. You also can record audio, and that is on each individual slide. So as I'm now on slide 5, what I could do as a teacher is if I wanted to teach a lesson, like a flipped classroom blended learning experience, or to provide some extra resources for students if they missed class or just kind of as a backup or refresher, for example, I could create a Buncee, and on each slide, I could have a short video to explain something and then have images, documents, PDFs there on the screen. I could have links to other websites, for example. I could also just record my voice and explaining something with some images on the screen. That became really powerful last year when we couldn't be in person, especially for elementary teachers who were used to, interacting with students so much and reading to them, explaining things in math or science or whatever the course is. So being able to put all of that into one space and have it accessible with one link, and you can change it, really does make a difference. So lots of possibilities there. And then going back to like global collaborations, being able to learn about different students. For me, as a language teacher, it's really important that my students have a chance to connect with students that live in Spanish-speaking countries. So we did project-based learning. And for my students to get to know about each other, they made an About Me, which I'll encourage you to make one of those or something similar to it. And they shared them with those other students who had never heard of Buncee. Now, sometimes we are working with different languages, and Buncee has the immersive reader. So on this top screen here, or on the top of the screen, immersive reader, for anybody that knows, it promotes the accessibility. It helps students who are developing their language skills. It breaks it down by parts of speech, the lines that you read. It can translate into well over 100 languages instantly. So I will say to you, if you are working with a group of students and supporting families, and there are a lot of different languages being spoken, this is a great tool where you can create a newsletter, a presentation, anything that you want, knowing that whenever you share it with students and families or whoever your audience is, that it has the functionality of immersive reader to translate it into the language that they need. As a language educator, it helps my students when they're not with me in class to build their skills and practice, because they can turn that on and listen to a native Spanish speaker reading the text and use that to practice. And I didn't think of that before, but I actually saw a student doing that in my classroom at one point, because she said, I didn't want to bother you and ask you to come help me pronounce words. So I just used the immersive reader and that was fine. I went, wow, that's a really great idea. So lots of ways to connect. And that's an example of an About Me. Now, heading back to school with Buncee, there are lots of icebreakers that we can do, whether for our students, with us and our students, with teachers, staff, development, PD. Some people don't necessarily like icebreakers, but there are some icebreaker activities within the Buncee templates. Like if you did 3 truths and a lie, for example, or things I wish my teacher knew, or just simply create an About Me. Last year, when our schools were closed and we were fully virtual at the start of the year, not being able to have students together to interact and to learn about each other, it was tough, especially because not all students were on camera and not all students wanted to necessarily participate and share. But there is comfort and there is confidence that is built from when students can use Buncee to create and share who they are. More than just sharing the words on the screen, they can choose from all of the different backgrounds and the images, the animations to represent who they are and build those relationships. If they feel comfortable, they could use a video and record it, or if not, they could just talk and record the audio. And so then we're getting to be familiar with the sounds of our voices, the excitement we have for school, for teaching as teachers. And then again, if we share this with other students who are just building language skills, they can use that immersive reader. But it's a good way to help students share who they are, especially at the start of the year. If you have a group of new students coming in and you want to create kind of like this classroom community and give students a chance to kind of share, like, this is all about me. And the way that you can do that is Buncee has Buncee boards. And it's just like a big bulletin board collaborative space. And when you create a Buncee, you can share them all, kind of like you're attaching them all onto that one digital space. So then what happens is, either if you are in the classroom and let's say that the students did a presentation and they used Buncee, instead of having to sort through, emails or flash drives or anything like that, if they use Buncee, they're all in that one space. Students can look at all of the other Buncees of their classmates. The teacher has access to that, and it's always something you refer back to. If you look at global collaboration, let's say that you connect your students with a couple of other classrooms and you have a common topic. Could be what school is like, what traditions you go through with your family or friends or just wherever you live. It could be anything. We did project-based learning And my students posted their individual About Me Buncees, and the students in Argentina and in Spain did the same thing. So then all in that one space, we were able to learn about one another. And if my students who were in Spanish 1 or 2, just developing their language skills, read something that was written by a student, of course, who was a native Spanish speaker, and if they didn't understand all of the meaning, they could use that immersive reader to kind of support them and then build their skills in that way. So we did build what I like to call a learning community through Buncee Skills. Students, I've had many, and you probably have students like this too, where they may not necessarily want to speak out in class or answer or share their project. And we don't want to totally take those opportunities away, because they need to become comfortable speaking, public speaking, for example, communicating, collaborating with others. But sometimes it's just about creating that space where students can build their skills in a way that's comfortable. They can definitely have fun while creating, as you see lots of animals and things moving around on the screen. But for me, I noticed that as my students were thinking about what to create for Spanish, worrying about, the vocab, the verbs, putting that into it, but also attaching meaning. So if we're learning about family, or we're talking about foods or anything, school, they can find all of those graphics. And as they're finding the graphics, they're connecting the Spanish word and verbs and whatever they're writing about to those images or to those animations. And they're really engaged in learning. And I have seen, and also my students have told me, how much more they remember the vocab because of what they've created, because it was more hands-on and interactive. They really had to think through it. So I love seeing what they come up with. So it's a really good way for them to build their skills. If you are teaching in a virtual or hybrid environment, I'm laughing at the dancers here. Last year, my school was not using something like Microsoft Teams or Google Classroom. And with me teaching at the time 6 different courses, I wanted to have one space that my students could go to, that I could have a video that I could change each week. So what you're actually seeing right now is just one individual Buncee, and everything here is hyperlinked. So if I wanted to teach them about, like, this is what it's like to experience virtual learning, these are the expectations, they could click it and it would go to the other link. Google Form I used to click their assignments. They could click that without having to think, okay, in what email was that link sent, or in what message was that sent? And then I had a Padlet, which I used to store all of their assignments. So there's lots of possibilities for this. Even, and I'm checking to see any questions too, even for somebody who, let's say that your school doesn't use something like Google Classroom or Teams, or maybe you just want to have like a class website, but with all of the things that come with creating a full website. You can make one slide like this, one Buncee that has links to everything that you need. And then you update all of that other information. The video that's in there, you could change that every single week. So maybe each week you give a welcome to this week of school. Here are our goals for this week, for an example, and other information. And then maybe you do change some of those links that are there, maybe some of the backgrounds. But the idea is the link that you have for this Buncee doesn't change, just like it does it when you have a Google document or presentation. So that means you can always update it. And when people go to that link, it has the most recent update to what you created. So changing it, you don't have to worry about sharing new links all the time. Videos can be re-recorded. You can add in extra features. You can even add in additional pages. So maybe it did start as just one, but then you wanted to add something on to the end of it. So for like a class website where students know where to go to, this has been a great idea. And as promised, I'm going to give you just a quick peek at what their toolkits look like that I mentioned before. So I know I'm just giving you some ideas, hopefully pushing some thinking about, I wonder, maybe I could do this in my classroom, or I could use Buncee for a lab experiment with my students, or a book report or book review, for example. I will share lots of ideas with you here and encourage you to create very soon. But going back to the social emotional learning, this is what it looks like whenever you would go to the Buncee SEL toolkits. Now, there are the 5 competencies. So you have the self-awareness all the way through the self-management in each of those. And depending on the grade level that you teach, K through 6, 7 through 12, you would choose one of these 2 toolkits and then focus on one of those competencies. like I said, if you want to help students to build skills in self-management, you would find templates and you would click on it and they're ready to go. You might just need to make a few changes. So that is another thing that I love about Buncee. Now I'm just going to show you a couple quick ideas that tie into that, and then I'll share with you what those resources for SEL look like. And then we're going to go into the dashboard and see about creating a Buncee and also looking at some of their templates available. So the start of the year, back to school, we all want our students to get to know about us. We want to get to know about our students. And so this, what you see on the screen, is just one example of a ready to go template. All I had to do was click on the button and said, use this template. And I have this. Now I can go in and I can add my information, my education, everything, whatever I want to add. I could even go in and record my voice and talk to my students. I could put a video in instead wherever I wanted to, but this at least gives me a starting point. So that is one of the many templates at the beginning of the year. And still this ties in with the same first one. So it actually has two slides for it. Then you can share with students what your favorites are. But let's say that you don't want to share your favorite movie, or I don't know what my favorite song is. That's okay. You can change any of those things. They just give you the start. So maybe you don't want to have fun facts, but you want to add some other information. And for contact, maybe you want to include something besides just email. But what you could do is you could make that an active link. So instead of typing the email address, which you can do that as well, you could have it linked. So when somebody clicks that, it goes directly to a website, or if you have a blog, or if you have something else for your class. So that's why I really like that it keeps everything contained into this one space that is very visually engaging. And definitely as a teacher, it's a lot of fun to create with. Here's another option. Now, this could be something that teachers use, but it can also be something that we have our students create, and then we get to learn about our students as well. And again, this is just a template. So you can change the backgrounds of it. You can change what the topics are, the prompts, put in different images. There's a lot of possibilities of what you can do, and it does not take too much time at all. So with that, let me see. Oh yeah, this is kind of another way you can do it about me. Just put your information, have some different backgrounds. So what I'm going to do is close that one. And if you cannot see my Buncee SEL Toolkit screen, please send me a message in the chat. Should be okay. But what they have done over the summer is they put together so many resources into one space. And there's research, this full toolkit, but it gives you some different ideas about what you can use anytime throughout the year. But since we're back to school for many of us, what you can use to start the year. I showed you some of the about me's, looking at, social and self-awareness and self-management. There are a lot of all ready to go, ready to use materials in their library. Those are the toolkits that I showed you. So now if I decide, okay, I teach 5th grade and I want my students, I want to help them to really work on self-management. So if I click, then what's going to happen with the toolkit is it will open up and you'll have access to all kinds of examples you can use. So we have, it's just bigger right now. So I have all of these templates. So I'm going to go back and click on the self-management, and it will take you to a Buncee board. Now the Buncee board in this case has 31 Buncees. And as I scroll down, and you might look at this and think, this is amazing. I could choose one of these for every week. And there's lots of choices. There's journals, there's vision boards, there's different activities for tracking fitness. Okay, because self-management, taking care of ourselves. And you might look through this and decide, you know what, I really think that I like this goal notebook. So I'm just going to click on it, and it opens up and it'll show you exactly what it includes. And it has 7 pages. So I will flip through here, and hopefully it's actually flipping through. And that's just the template. So you could use this and share it with students. And then all they need to do is add their text in. That's just one option. So I love the fact that we have all of these ready to go templates. And then if you have your account with Buncee, if you already made one, you can subscribe to a board. And what that means is that whenever somebody else adds extra Buncees to the board that you're subscribed to, you get a notification in your account. And so as the year progresses and people make more and more ideas, that's quite helpful because you always have some new ideas to explore. Also with the SEL resources that they have, let me go back to this before we dive into creating. It gives you some different links. There is, I actually wrote one blog about it as well. There's even a Microsoft course that focuses on it too. So lots of resources. I know everybody is looking for ideas for SEL, especially as we head back to school. So I would definitely recommend creating your account with Buncee, and then based on whichever grade level you teach, then looking at the toolkit just to get some ideas. However, even if you don't do that, right within Buncee, you can find a lot of these same templates without having to do a lot of searching. So I will pause just briefly. If you do have questions, or if you're looking for specific ideas, drop them in the chat, or don't hesitate to send me a message on Twitter. Happy to give you some extra examples. I highly recommend following Buncee so you get some ideas. There's lots of great information that's shared all the time. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you what the dashboard looks like, where to find some ideas for back to school. When you create your account, if you haven't already, you log in and you have a dashboard. Now, depending on the account that you have, you may have classes, whether as the teacher and you have students, or you might be part of like classes for something else. Like there have been teachers that formed kind of their own class and they share their resources in that one space. It shows all of your Buncees, and then it has boards. Now, I have created a lot of different Buncee boards that I've used. I've had some shared with me, but I've also subscribed to a lot of boards because there are so many ideas that are shared. I know last year there were a lot for parent newsletters, for example, but even just scrolling down, Hour of Code, Gratitude Challenge, a yearbook, summer fun, and then there were some broken down by different grade levels. And I am actually going to open this one and I'm going to share the link with you because I think Laurie has such great ideas with these parent newsletters. And I always like to share this because if you look down and see what she does is she made these newsletters, and on each one, there are different activities that link to something else. But sometimes we just need a quick idea and think, oh, I didn't think about using that for a newsletter. So let's say at the beginning of the year, you decide, I want to be more consistent with sending information to families. Buncee is great for doing that. There are lots of templates to do that with. Okay. Ideas Lab. Ideas Lab is full of, you guessed it, ideas, and you can search and you can find materials, templates ready to go here in the Ideas Lab, or also whenever you just start to create within Buncee in the dashboard that I just showed you. But just scrolling down here right now, they have the newest ones. So create your own school year portfolio, keep parents up to date with parent letters, get students and their parents get to know you. So a lot of meet the teacher, social emotional learning. They have categories of science, lots of social emotional learning, language learning, and everything that you see here on the left. Those templates are already ready to go. And again, if you don't like maybe some of the images that are on it, or you want to change the text or the questions, you can change all of that. But the benefit of this is that you have something to actually start with that's tangible, so you don't have to spend a ton of time. But I will say that it is a lot of fun to create with Buncee because you have so many choices. And for us as educators, like I said, SEL is also important. And I myself find that creating with Buncee, just something quick to use in my classroom, maybe I'm going to chat on Twitter or I'm doing some type of a graphic for something. It's really good to take a break and to slow down, but also to be intentional about giving ourselves some time to just step away from like all of the work. And even though we might be creating something for our class, there's something very soothing and fun about creating with Buncee. And I have a friend that creates every morning, and he just makes quotes and he posts the quotes every day. And what that does is he shares it with educators from all around the world. And so he's sharing his Buncee creation, but he's also just focusing on his day and starting it with something that's a regular part of his routine. And it doesn't just benefit him. So lots of ways to use these. We can do 3 truths and a lie, some different icebreakers, but they even have like making cards and newsletters, information, you name it. I've used it so much to make cards for friends and for family. So here is where it is time for you to definitely multitask. And I'm hoping that you will create something and then share it with me and tag Buncee on Twitter after you create it. So let's go and look at what is available for us for back to school. So the first thing you hit is create, and you have version 3.0. So that's going to have all of the newest features, updates, everything in it. And once it loads, you have a couple of options. So you can either start from scratch. You can scroll down the page and see what are the most recently added choices of Buncees with the templates ready to go that are available. So you see there's a lot of school, first day, last day, first day prompts, first day of whatever grade, self-portrait, some reflections. And I just love to scroll through and look at all of the different layouts. So depending on what grade level you teach, what content area, maybe you want to help students set some goals. So there's lots for goal setting. Check your work, helping students to make sure that they're following instructions, for example. Many choices. So starting from scratch, scrolling down to see what's the most recent. If it is a newsletter that you want to start with, you can see there's a lot of choices. But again, if I click on this library newsletter and I like the layout, there are some features of it I can change. I might be able to change the background, the font. I might be able to add extras into it. It just gives you a place to start. So that's the second way. Or you can scroll over on the left side to find a category or a type of bookmark or brochure or business card, awards, anything. There's lots of choices over here on the left. So when it comes for back to school, under education, if you are teaching math or physical education, English, science, and you want to do something that's different than maybe not that there's anything wrong with the packets and the worksheets. I use them in Spanish, depending on what they are, to have students actually write and have access to those. But sometimes it's fun to have something that's a little bit more interactive, that the students are practicing what it is that they're learning, but they're also building these essential skills and learning in a different way using Buncee for some creativity. So let's just say that I teach math. And I'm curious what kind of Buncees are already available for math. So we have mathematician I'm researching. We have some for elementary. So they have a summer math activity, measure the ice cream, for example, ratios and percentages, math vocabulary. There are math problems. Now, what you can do is for any of these, you simply, if I decide, what, I think I want to assign this one or have my students work on it in class. I take a look and I see I'm solving algebra equations with turkeys. And many of these are ideas that have been submitted by other teachers. So elementary teachers, middle school and high school teachers did something, tried something with Buncee and shared it with the Buncee team. And now it's become one of the templates available for everybody else to use. So you look and you think, what, I really like that. I'm going to use this template. And then there it is. So now if I am the math teacher and this is my activity, I decide, okay, I don't think I need to change anything here. Looks good. So the students can go and they can complete these problems, figure them out. But let's say maybe I decide that for whatever reason, I don't really like the background. I can change the background to anything else that I want. So I'll probably pick something right now that's going to be a little bit chaotic. It doesn't work, but just to show you, I'm going to change the background to that page, which looks pretty cool, very vibrant, but unfortunately I can't see the math problems, but I can see the turkeys. So I just hit undo and it comes back. But maybe I just want to change the color of it. I can just choose a different color. And let's say I want to go with a green and I just apply it to this one page. I can see most everything, but there are still some things that I can't see. So you can change those. You double click on the text, whatever it is that you want to change the font. And if you don't like that font for some reason, you can change it. The turkeys that are on the screen, if you decide you want to make the turkeys bigger or smaller or rotate them a little bit, you can do anything that you want. When you know that you can't change something is like if I click on the hearts, that's part of that original background. So whenever I change the color to some other background, those go away. But when you click on an object and it has the red dots, that's when you know you can change it. Also, by looking over on the right side where all of those images and the text are, if you want to change the word solving algebra, you would click on it, double click and change it. So now let's say that you want to give this for your students to work on in your classroom. You would hit share, and then you have these choices. So who can view? Anybody with a link. Can they comment? Yes, that's a feature that you can provide feedback on Buncees. So if students complete an activity or an assignment or do a presentation and the Buncee is commentable, you can put a comment. Copyable is what you want for it to be. So just like with Google, if you share it with somebody and they can make a copy of it and change and add their own information, same thing with Buncee. So as long as that's copyable, when students or anybody would open up your Buncee, they could take what you have and then they can make their own and change it to meet whatever their responses are or whatever they need. Other interesting things, and I will check the chat, you can share with a link or an embed code. Other Buncee users, so let's say you want to share it with other students in the classroom or another teacher. If you have a Buncee board, there's a code. So I often tell my students what that code is. And instead of them having to get the link and then go and type, post their Buncee there, they just type the code in and it puts it right there. You can send emails or RSVPs. So thinking back to school, if you do create an about me or meet the teacher, you can email it to parents, to students, and it sends it right out to them, no problem. Socially, of course, does integrate. We've got Microsoft Teams here that I use in my school, but you also have these other options. And then you can download them either as a PDF. So thinking about last year, if you did create a lesson with Buncee and not all students had devices, you could then also print the copies as well. Does use a lot of ink, but the other thing is that you can make very beautiful signs for use in your classroom and have students create as well. So lots of options with that. Now let me check and see if there are any questions. All right, I hope you're starting to create. So I'm going to go back to my dashboard again and hit create. Version 3.0. So since we are back to school with Buncee, probably a great idea to go in and see what do they have for the back to school. So there are already some that open up right here. We can have a back to school banner. So if you want to share that out on social media, it's already there. Again, you can change a lot of those things. You can make bookmarks. I know you can print the bookmarks, but I'm just going to hit the back to school and see what comes up. Now, we might want to have our students describe what their first day of school was like. Maybe for some students, it's the first time going to school after kindergarten, they're going to the first grade, elementary students, it doesn't matter, whatever we want. You could do a find a friend who and encourage students to, ask questions. Find a friend who has a pet cat or who plays a certain sport. But scrolling down, there are lots of different choices. You can even make hall passes. So printing those out, lots of fun to do. You meet the teacher. So what I want for you to do is pick something that you think you might like to use for a meet the teacher or for an activity. Maybe you do some of those 3 truths and a lie. Maybe you want to change it and it's not 3 truths, maybe it's 2 truths and then 1 lie. Who knows? You can change whatever the background is, the coloring of it, anything. Now let me choose, and you choose whichever one you want. And it might just be a business card that you make. But I'm going to scroll back up to the top because on this one, the describe your first day, it has this record a video. And so let's say that I want to change the background. So again, if I decide, maybe it's just the color of it, I want to make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to try this purple. Okay, now my font, I can't see. It's not a problem. I can change, everything is in the toolbar at the bottom. So I can change that to be a yellow, to be a white. I can make the font a different style. This one is one of my favorites because it shows up a lot. Describing of course, I have to change first day. So I'm going to change that color. Going to change the font on that one as well. Now, how was your first day of school? And you can move it around. You can change the font. Here, it's telling you record a video. So what you need to do is record a video. So I'm going to delete this and click on this here and delete this, but I'm just going to say hello for lack of anything better to say right now. And I'm going to move that down here. Now, here is where you find all of the amazing things to put into Buncee. Now, some of the options may not appear for you because of a free versus a teacher with a classroom account, but that's okay because there are still tons of choices. First, if I do want to record a video, I would hit record video. And I have up to 3 minutes, and that is per slide, per video, I should say. So it's going to open up, and it probably will not let me record because I'm on the webcam, or it might. And I'm going to stop, maybe, and then it has the 5 seconds, and I upload it. So if I hit upload, and the other thing is that whatever you've previously recorded, audio, anything like that, it's saved in your library. So if you happen to upload images that you use, whatever they might be, those are stored in your library. So here's this. And then let's say that I want to put my contact information. I'm just going to write my name right here. And then, of course, I need to stretch this because it went a little bit longer. So hello. Now, maybe I want to use this and I want to share this with students, with teachers, with families, doesn't matter, because pretend it's not the describe your first day, but any Buncee that I would create. I can then create a link. So let's say I have a link that is my blog site. I'll just type that in and it is now linked onto that. If I wanted to record myself saying, how was your first day at school? I click on audio and it'll give me the prompt at the bottom to record. And so I'll say, how was your first day at school? And it may or may not record. There we go. It's okay. So then that is added into it. And maybe I don't really like these books floating around over there because you can't see them. So I can make them bigger or smaller, or I can totally take them out. And then to find other options, I can even make this school smaller. You hit the plus. Now, back in that library again, you can search based on type of whatever it is, a 3D object, shapes, the text, anything, animations, stickers. But if you don't choose one of those categories, you can just type right into the search and it'll search through all of those categories. So I'm going to type in school and it opens up all of these options. And here is where I won, even though, like I said, I wasn't trying to win in the PowerPoint versus Buncee a couple of years ago. I said, pick 5 different images and put them all on your PowerPoint. So of course you have to go to the internet, find the images, download, upload, save them, cite them. But here, all I need to do is click whatever I want to add in. So I'm just going to click a bunch of things right now, and it's going to completely destroy what is on the screen. But see, it says add 9. So unlike the PowerPoint, which would take all of that time, add 9, kind of a mess, but all 9 of them are now on the screen. Then all I need to do is go and move them around. So I'm just going to do a little bit of a kind of a shift here with some of these so you can see where they all are. And that's what makes it a lot of fun, is you can search by the category and find whatever it is. Now, let's say you decide, you know what, I don't need that one. Not a problem. You highlight it, you hit delete, it gives you the prompt. And then if you said, oh, wait, I hit that too fast, it's okay. You can hit undo it. Changing the title at the top, I'm just going to put first day. And then let's say I want to add another page. Maybe this is not a describe your first day. Maybe this is a welcome to my class. And this is myself introducing who I am. And then maybe on the next slide, I'm going to share information about the class specifically. So you have a couple of options. We don't have enough time for me to tell you about the stitching, but briefly, stitching means that you take part of a Buncee presentation from another Buncee presentation and put it into this one instead of having to recreate it. But I'm going to add a new page. Now, the nice thing about this is you can either just put a different background on the white canvas, or you can choose a template. So going back to what I initially chose, which was the back to school and the first day of school, I can look through these, and instead of creating totally from scratch, maybe I find something that like, oh yeah, you know what, that would be a great thing to add in. So I had to describe in the first day, but maybe I want to do something about virtual learning and expectations, for example, Or maybe it's a little bit more about the meet the teacher, and you know what, I'm going to pick this one for right now. And I'm going to use that template, and it's going to go right into that same Buncee. And again, I can change a lot of whatever is in the background. If I don't like the color on the background, if I want it to be darker, I can change it. Some of these prompts it gives you, if you decide, I don't really want to add my photo, I'm going to delete that. But what I will share with you that is kind of fun is I do have my own Buncee stickers. So I may not want to add my picture, but I could put in the Rachelle Buncee sticker right there instead. And there I am standing on top of the tree, and you would have to enter some text. And so if I look at this, I'd back up the spaces and just fix to put my name. Again, I could change the font. If I don't want to use Pacifico, I'll go with that one. And that's it. So let's say you're ready to share this, your beautiful Buncee creations. And it could be these, it could be check-ins, it could be a lesson that you create. You hit share and you choose your options to share. Now to preview, this is where you will see that the video is actually embedded, because while it's still in the edit mode, you don't see that the video is there and the link would not work. So here's the beautiful describe your first day. If I hover on it, it has the immersive reader. So any of the text that's on there, it would open up a separate page and it would read the text in English or whichever language you chose, breaking it down by lines. If I hit play, there I am talking. I did record this. So if I hit the audio, it would, how was your first day of school? And then remember, I put a link on my name. I hyperlinked it. So you could actually, if you had your students have 5 different websites or activities, it could all be done in this one Buncee, similar to a hyperdoc. So if I click on that, it should have gone to my blog site, but I see what the problem is. I put in an extra period. And then the next page, and there it is. You can always go back in and edit it. And now if it is that it has comments that you can add as a teacher, students to one another, you could type in a comment that says like, welcome to class. I love your Buncee. I'm just gonna type. And then you add the comment. Now I could then reply to that, but in some cases it is set up to be moderated. So then you can approve the comment first, but it depends on if you have that setting shared. So I know that is a ton of information. I hope that you got some ideas, even for the start of the year, using some of these backgrounds. Like mine that I have was just very plain, and then I added in all those characters and the cats and the coffee and the koala bear and my Twitter handle. But this is a background that you can have for anything. So it could be used for Zoom. You could even print a sign for your classroom. And if I wanted to just add in my name, I would type in Mrs. Poth. I'll always make it a little bit of a larger font just because it's a little bit easier to see. And then you just drag that onto the board. And not saying that I would totally print this, but you could have this be a sign outside of your classroom door or your office door or just other signs in your classroom for reminders. I think that it's just so beautiful and visually engaging to create. And with all of the different options that you have available from the Ideas Lab, or even just searching right within, you can get started with the school year really fast. So think about activities that you do for getting students to know one another. If there are lessons that you use in physical education, there's printable worksheets, social emotional learning. And if that is an area that you want to focus on, you could find a lot of templates, newsletters, posters. There are even scrapbooks. So if you made like a class scrapbook or photo album, social emotional learning, I'll just pull this one up last as well, because lots of great ideas, setting goals, thinking about even, it's not just for elementary students. My high school students love using Buncee for all of their Spanish projects, the project-based learning they do, and even in their other classes, because they're in my account, I can see all of their Buncees from history and science, and even a physical education and their foods course that they had done. So a lot of things we can use, creating some different behavioral charts if we use those, how to make an apology. There's some gratitude, affirmation cards, so many choices, and we never have enough time, but I hope you got some new ideas, took some time to explore. I would love to know if you created something and share it with me. That would be awesome. And if you do have questions, don't hesitate to send me a message, an email, or reach out on Twitter. I would be happy to share more resources with you. So thank you to everybody who has joined in today. And I'll check the chat here. Oh, there we go.
Thank you so much. There's so many things that you
I
can
know.
do. Not even just for back to school, just for school, but specifically for back to school too. Just so like no one can walk away from this saying, I didn't get a good idea of what I can do. So thank you so very much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks everybody that joined in, and I hope created something, and especially with the SEL toolkit. It's unbelievable what is available just through that. You get so many ideas for back to school. So I highly recommend it.